Greetings, YouTubers! Food intolerance or food sensitivities holding you back from achieving your goals? In the video that you're about to watch, I'm going to give you the down low on gluten and gluten sensitivity. So you will enjoy this video, I know that much. It's fairly content rich, a little bit packed with controversy as well. That's always good, but I'm going to be giving it to you straight. So watch the video, enjoy the video, and I'll see you on the other side. Gluten in 5 minutes. I'm going to try and keep this short, sharp, and to the point. So first of all, what you need to know about gluten is a peptide that's found in wheat, rye, and barley. So to the mainstream medical community, nutrition community, gluten sensitivity is really thought just as celiac disease. But to the functional medicine practitioner, and I suppose to the people who are looking more broadly and holistically, celiac disease is really just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to gluten sensitivity. If you look below in the New England Journal of Medicine, published in, I think, 2013, it was published that there were over 55 diseases linked to a gluten sensitivity. And I believe there's actually been published a lot more today in 2017. So in saying that, you've got to ask why. Why are there so many diseases that are linked to a gluten sensitivity? Well, it's really very simple. It's because what gluten affects, what gluten triggers is the immune system, okay? So it's an autoimmune driver, in meaning that to have an autoimmune disease, you really need three things. You need the gene, you need the trigger, which aka can be gluten or lifestyle or soy and a whole bunch of different things, and you need leaky gut or intestine permeability. But first, before we get into a whole talk about that, let's start with, I suppose, some fundamentals inside and talk about celiac disease for just a second. Inside your gut, you have your invilli, intestines. Inside the intestines, you have your villi. Your villi, your shags of carpet, in other words. Now, to be diagnosed a celiac in Australia, I think around the world it's pretty standard, you need to have about 95% villi atrophy. So that means that these villi that should be healthy and kind of sticking out from your intestines need to be gone, basically. And you need to be about 95% of the way there, which means that you can go misdiagnosed if, let's say, for example, you're only 65% of the way there or 80% of the way there. So unfortunately, but common, what happens is suspecting celiacs or suspecting people who have a problem with gluten will go to the doctor and say, hey doc, I think I have a problem, and they'll run a gluten panel. They might do a test, and it might, like transglutaminase for example, but it might come back as negative as you were fine to eat gluten. So they'll do another test, and the test is then sometimes, unfortunately, eat a whole loaf of bread or half a loaf of bread for 8 weeks and come back. And what they're trying to do is establish with beyond a shadow of a doubt whether the person has celiac. I mean, it's kind of archaic. It's kind of, not a very, I suppose, good way to do things, because what ultimately has to happen if you are a celiac is you have to come back from that. You have to rebuild the gut. Now, I mean, that's not a fun process to do if someone has a sensitivity to gluten. Some things that you should know: most people do have a problem with some form of problem with celiac. And that's not me being, hypochondriac and whatever, but I have seen personally people do a lot better without gluten in their diet. Now, another thing that we have to consider is the quality of the wheat that we get in. Most wheat in the Western countries is genetically modified. So if we look at Europe, for example, Western or US wheat was introduced, genetically modified wheat that is, was introduced to Europe in about 2001. But it was adamantly rejected because consumers saw no consumer benefit. And in actual fact, in Europe, because there's such an eating culture, they found the opposite. They found there was no consumer benefit whatsoever. In actual fact, it was a detriment to them in terms of their cooking. So they wanted it out. They wanted the US grain, genetically modified grain, out of their country, where the European Union actually banned US grain from entering the country. So that's why you'll find that some people who are celiacs in, say, our country in Australia will go over to Europe, eat all the breads, cereals, pastas over in Europe and be completely fine. And the reason for that is because if you look at wheat now, there used to be about a 5% concentration of gluten in wheat. Now it's about a 50% concentration of gluten. So it's a lot more problematic for people today because of the way wheat is constituted today. So there are a lot of fun facts about gluten. People think it's all paresthesia, or people think it's all, a hypochondriac reaction. Personally, I don't think it is. I've seen people do a lot better. And also, one other thing that you see is there is a peptide of gluten called gluteomorphine, which is actually a gluten receptor in your brain. This is if you have this one, because these are the kind of people who just can't stop eating wheat once they have, a slice of bread. But short, kind of sharp thing, my recommendation, if I can make one, is the fact that if you have an immune disorder, if you have an autoimmune condition, whether it be Hashimoto's or any of these autoimmune conditions, celiac disease, whatever, remove the trigger. The trigger can come in many different factors, but gluten is a big one. Gluten is huge. If you have autoimmune in your family, so your sister or your brother or your mum or someone in your family has an autoimmune issue, it's a highly likelihood that you have that gene as well, because obviously you're related, and your family history and your family tree can often be a very big insight in terms of what's brewing or what's cooking for you if you don't take care of yourself. So it would be advisable in my world of performance that you would want to get rid of the wheat. And look, people say, oh, I know it's hard, whatever. Well, you know, it's like, for me, it's like playing poker. You don't always get a fair hand, right? But you get the hand that you've got, and you've got to make do, and you've got to play it to the best of your ability. And a good poker player can beat someone with a bad hand as long as they play well. And I suppose for me, that's kind of how I like to live my life, metaphorically, is I play the best that I possibly can with what I'm given. Hope you enjoyed that video. Hope you learned something from it. Reach out to us online, www.melbournepersonaltrainers.com. Shoot us an email, info@enterprisefitness.com.au, or give us a call, 1300 887 143, and one of my friendly staff members will be able to help you with your goals, no matter the goal. Hope to hear from you soon. Supplement smart, train hard, and eat well.